Okay. So today's verse, the mantra 2, Isopanishad, Kurvanevehe karmani jiji visheshatam sama evam tvayanyathe tosti na karma lipate nave. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on working in that way, because that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. And there is no alternative to this for man. This is a very important statement this verse is making. There is no alternative for this to man. As human beings, there is a way we are supposed to live our life. But unfortunately, nowadays in Kali Yuga, everybody is living it in a inappropriate way. Yeah, we are not living it. We are not living it the right way. And yes, so yeah, and there is no alternative for this. This is a very good verse. So we talked about the invocation talked about what is the principle, right? The Ishavasya principle. No, sorry, the invocation was sorry, not Isha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. That told us everything is perfect. Everything is perfect for its purpose. Okay? And we also learned that Krishna is independently complete. I am dependently complete. I am also complete in myself, but then because I am part and parcel of Krishna, Mama Ivamshu Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, because I am part and parcel of Krishna, I am complete. For my completeness, I need Krishna to be there for me. Okay. Then we read the first verse. Ishavasya midam sarvam yat kincha jagatam jagat tena taktena bhunjita magadha kasya siddhana. Everything belongs to the Ishvara. That was the first verse we read. And now this verse is how living in harmony with Ishvara benefits us. This is one. And the next verse will tell us how living in disharmony harms us. We'll see how it happens. Today's discussion is how living in harmony benefits us. And what the verse is saying that by living in this way, we will be not bound by karma. And what Prabhupada, the way Prabhupada translated it, he says 100 years. The verse contains hundreds of years, right? So somebody can say that, okay, everyone wants to live hundreds of years. So what's so great about it? So what's this logic of stating that in the verse? That if you live in this way, then you should desire to live for 100 years, right? The reason it's being mentioned this way is that in the olden days, there's always the concept of capital punishment, hanged to death. Sometimes they would just put a chop off your head or something of that sort. The concept comes from the Vedic concept, where when somebody is hanged to death after doing a very heinous crime, somebody has murdered or something has happened, they've done a really bad crime. If they keep living in that body, they will continue to create more karmic bondage, and that will prolong their miseries in the long run. That is why capital punishment was given. Right? Because whenever we live longer in an akarmic way, the improper way, then we become more and more entangled in our karmic. And then we have to suffer much more. That is why when somebody was hanged to death, they're in one sense paying for their karma. They've done a very bad karma, and then they have been given a punishment also, which is to some extent equally harsh. If a person is living in a proper way, then living longer is a blessing. Evam tvai na anya atheto asti. So it's being told here. Evam tvai na anya atheto asti. Which means, evam, so living, unto you no alternative from this path. that if he continues to work on this path, then one can aspire to live for hundreds of years. So there is no other intelligent way to live. Right? Just imagine that if somebody lives on the 20th floor of a building, the only intelligent way to come down is take the stairs. And there's other ways. Yes, you can jump off the 20th floor, but then you're never coming back up again. Right? So meaning is, if we don't live harmoniously, there is no other way to live. It leads to disaster. Right? That's the way to understand it. The reason it's been mentioned that such a person can live hundreds of years, because when you're living in a conducive way, then you can live as long as you want. There is no end to it. There is a story that Prabhupada used to tell. It's a what was it called? Yeah. Yeah, so, it was about Jivova Marova. I think that was this don't live, don't lie. Right? Uh, so a sage, when he was passing through a place, like through a kingdom, he saw a prince, a king's son, and he said, Rajaputram Chiranjiva. You are a king's son, prince, you live forever. And then he saw a son of a son of a sage, Muni Putra. So he blessed Majiva, no, so Majiva, Majiva. You don't live. Yeah, you're okay. And then for a devotee, he says, uh, Jivava Marova. Either you live, either you die. And then there was a butcher he meets, and to him says, Ma Jiva Ma Mara. You don't die, you don't live. So Prabhupada gives a very good story that for somebody like a butcher, his his current life is miserable and his future life is going to be miserable. So either you live, either you die, doesn't matter. Right? So it's already a hell. You're living your life akarmically. And for us, a devotee, whether the devotee dies now or whether a devotee lives 100 years, it's up to the devotee's choice, right? Because he's living his life perfectly, the way he or she is supposed to live. So, so then that for that person, even if he lives for 100 years, it doesn't matter. He's living his life perfectly, whether he lives or dies, doesn't matter, right? So that's I'm not going to go into the detail, but that's a very beautiful story Prabhupada tells. Right? So, um, so yeah, so living a long life is okay only for people who are living it in the right way in which we are supposed to live. That's the that's the essence. That's the reason why the word, sorry, not the word, but the phrase hundreds of years is used here. Right? And so yeah, so then there is a very good word that's being used here, which is lipete. Where is that word? Lipete. Na karma lipete nara. Nare. Right? This word is also comes in Bhagavad Gita, a similar word, lipete, brahmani adhyay karmani, sangam tyaktva karotiha, lipete nasa papena padva patram ivaham bhakta. That you should live your life like a lotus. Because a lotus, even though it's born in a mud, it lives in mud, it's never affected by the mud. There is never a stain left on it. So that's how it's we are expected to live, right? Like without a stain. That you're never touched by this material world. Right? So there is a sense that I'm engaging with this world, but I'm using everything as Krishna's service, as a paraphernalia in Krishna's service. So Krishna says it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. That's not the point here. Whether you make money or not, that's not the point. Brahmani adhyay karmani. Live like a lotus. Come out of the mud, because it doesn't get stained when it comes out of the mud. So if we change the way we think about how we engage in this world, we bring it, okay, I'm using it as an offering to Krishna. I'm offering my results to Krishna. Right? That's the way that is being highlighted in this verse. Right? If we are attached, we either enjoy or we either suffer. But both of them are two sides of the coin in the material world, right? And that is why to understand this concept of um, lipyate, to not be smeared by this material world, not be affected, we have to read Prabhupada's books. They're very valuable. When we read Prabhupada's books, we get courage, and then when we chant, we get our strength. Otherwise, this material world is like an endless stream of problems, which we cannot solve, however hard I may try. It's always going sideways, right? We can only handle it when we have our sadhana, our practice strong. We should have a strong spiritual base. So whenever you see something, you should be able to relate it to Shastra. Right? Think of Prabhupada's problems, Prabhupada's life, how many problems he had to solve. So many situations he had to solve. Right? So remind yourself of this principle of this lipyate, of being smeared by this material world. And then think of a lotus, that even sometimes we are in too many problems. We have duties to do, obligations, family members, work. We are in it. Right? But then still we can be like a lotus. We not be affected by it. Problems will always come. There are three kinds of problems, right? We have discussed. Anybody remembers what are the three kinds of kleshas that we have to go through?
Prabhuji, is it Adi Bhuta, Adi Daiva, and Adi Bhuta, Daiva, Adi Klesha? No.
Adhyatmika.
Is it a question or an answer? Are you confidently answering my question, or are you answering a question back to me?
I'm answering two parts.
No, whatever your answer, whichever part is, whatever those two parts you're saying, it was right. Your answer was right. But I'm saying, it sounded like a question to me. So I was wondering, but it was right. Yeah, that's right. So Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik, Adhyatmik. As the name suggests, Bhautik means from this world, coming from other living entities. COVID virus comes and the whole world shuts down. Right? Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik, coming from higher beings, demigods. We have, so just imagine, right? We were in 90s, and past 2 days I've been in 70s, and I've got a cold now. I'm really, my head is reeling, and I've got a runny nose, and it's just I can't do anything about it. It's just that's the way it's well, I can't do much about it, so I have to just keep going, keep going. And then Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik, Adhyatmik, things that are created by my own mind. My mind tells me, oh, this person is your enemy. You have to appropriately answer him or her. So these three kleshas will always be there. But if we are able to understand from Shastra how me as a living entity is above all these things, I'm beyond these. I'm not a part of this world. Then I'm able to come out of it. Then I'm able to come out of it. Right? And we all have to do this deliberately. It doesn't happen by itself. That's the thing. We have to program our life. Otherwise, somebody will program it for us. We have to be deliberate about what we put into our body, mind, and spirit. What do we put there? So the concept of living for hundreds of years with the Ishavasyan principle is only if we are living it intelligently. That's the only purpose. If we are truly living the purpose of being a human being, right? We cultivate habit patterns that take us towards our goal, not away from it. Right? We talked about TLCs. Prabhupada talks about is it disinterested obligatory duties. Prabhupada used this phrase, I think, in the Bhagavad Gita second chapter. DODs, So do you disinterested obligatory duties? Things we just have to do. There's no, yeah, I have to wake up every morning, brush my teeth, and go to work, even though I don't like my work very much. But yeah, I have to do it. It's just a part of life. But we don't get attached to it. We do it methodically, but dispassionately. Don't put your heart in it. Don't love your car because your car will not love you back. So don't get attached to this material world. That's what this verse means. And if we can bring that kind of a mindset, then we can live for hundreds of years, right? Then everything will be perfect. There's nothing for me to worry about. Yeah? We always walk around in this world with a mask on. Right? But the moment I realize that Krishna knows me, Krishna is sitting right in my heart. He knows me. When I remove that mask, I don't have to show it to him. No, for the first time today. So what happened today morning? I'll give you something funny, right? So I went to work and I went in early today. I was at work by 8:30 in the morning. But by 10 o'clock, I started to develop some fever. I could feel I was feverish. And my head was, just shaking. And I was just thinking something is coming. I could feel it. So I just packed my bags and I came home. But then I had a few meetings that I still take care of, even though my head was hurting. And whenever you get into a meeting, right, everybody asks, "Hey, how are you? How are you?" And for the first time, I told them, I'm not happy. I'm not okay. Otherwise, every time somebody asks me, I say, "Oh yeah, I'm okay." Even though I'm not okay, even on a regular day, I'm not okay. I'm frustrated. What's going on in this life, man? So when we actually understand that Krishna knows us, we no longer have to play this role, faking everybody out. That I'm okay. I'm not really all right. I'm totally messed up. I don't know what I'm getting old. My body is giving up. I can feel it. That I don't have the strength and agility of a 20-year-old, and things are changing significantly in my life. But I still keep telling, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. No. I have to get out of that faking that I've been the mask that I've put on. I'm going to die, and I don't know where I'm going. I don't know. I don't know how to even interact with this material world. Lippete. I've been smeared by this material world, right? So to the degree we understand Krishna's presence in our lives, to the same degree we can live this concept of Ishavasya principle. Right? But we also have to understand we can't stop desiring or acting. That doesn't happen. Because the symptom of consciousness is to desire and be active. Prabhupada will talk about in the purport, the first one, the purport, and let's go into that purport. Let's see. It's that part. I'll see. I think he brings it out somewhere in the purport. Yes. Okay, I can find. When we read it, we'll come to it. But yes, Prabhupada also talks about something similar, that how this body is about, or the consciousness is what is illuminating this body. The soul is the one that's illuminating, and because of which the body is active. Okay. Just like so that's similarly, the consciousness is a symptom that I'm alive, and the symptoms of consciousness is that I have a desire and I'm active. But then I cannot stop desiring and acting, but I can redirect them in a way, in that Ishavasya principle. I can set my intentions correctly. And I have to constantly remind myself that I have everything that I have is on loan to me. So if everything is on loan, I should use it properly. And the right way of using it is to have that Ishavasya principle, that everything belongs to Krishna. Even I belong to Krishna. And what is it that Krishna wants? That's another question, right? So Krishna wants Sadharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Come and be mine. I'm waiting for you here. I might have told this in the past, but if you read the book Brihad Bhagavatam, the story of Gopakumar, when Gopakumar reaches Goloka, Krishna is coming home from after rearing his cows the whole day, and he's come back from the forest. There's a beautiful description that when Krishna sees Gopakumar, Krishna comes running to Gopakumar and he hugs him very tightly. He says, "My friend, where have you been? I've been waiting for you for such a long time." And then Krishna fades actually after seeing his pure devotee. So Krishna is waiting for all of us, but that I'm too much engaged in this material world. And I'm saying, Krishna, no, I still want something here. I still want to suffer more before coming to you. So even though it's hard for us to come to the level of a pure devotee, obviously it's not easy. But if we set our intentions correctly, if we are able to live a life, at least where I'm trying my best to come to that point, then Krishna helps us from within the heart. Right? Krishna from within the heart helps me. That's which verse is that? 10th chapter, 10th verse, right? Bhagavad Gita. Anybody remembers that verse? 10.10. You should know these verses. If you read this purport, Prabhupada cross-references a lot to Bhagavad Gita. And that's the way we have to see it, always being able to cross-reference the books. That gives us the strength, right? Siddhanta bali chitte nakaralas, iha hoite, Krishna lage sudhrida manas. That when we Siddhanta baliya chitte, Siddhanta, when we read it threadbare, then we're able to correlate. And then we realize, oh my God, yes, what Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita is exemplified here in Isopanishad. And then that story in Bhagavatam tells me exactly the same thing. It all connects. If they're contradictory to each other, then the scriptures don't make any sense. They have to point to one direction eventually. So in the 10.10, Krishna says, Tesham sadada yuktana bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mapupiyanti. Those who are constantly devoted to serving with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to Him. So we have to try, and Krishna then helps us from within our hearts. So try living a life of this Ishavasya principle. Okay, so let's go through the purport. Anything on anybody's mind before we move forward? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I was just thinking about those living in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga. In Satya Yuga, one lived like 100,000 years. Treta Yuga, I think, like 10,000 years. So, of course, in Satya Yuga, everyone was pious, virtuous. But in Treta Yuga, it said that there was some decline in one's virtue. So living so many years, didn't one get subject to karma bondage, like what you mentioned? You brought up the point about why one doesn't want to live hundreds of years. So in these ages, they lived a significantly long period, 100,000 years, and then in Treta Yuga, I think 10,000 years. So were they not subject to any kind of karma bondage then?
No, everybody is subject to karma bondage. It's not that they are not. Everybody living in this material world is subject to karmic bondage. So it's not. So in those days, and in every yuga, it's different. It's not the same concepts, right? In the even the way of how you do bhakti or how do you become spiritual is different in every life, in every age, right? What was that? Kriteya dhyayato Vishnu, Tretayam yajato makhe, Dwapare paricharyan, Kaluta dharo sankirtana. Right. So in those days, as you rightly said, the the religious principles were upheld very well. They were not diminished, right? They were not diminished. So for example, in the Satyuga, right? All the levels were okay. Like, but when after we went from Satyuga to the next level, Treta Yuga, the legs were diminished, right? The legs, when I say legs in Bhagavatam, it's represented as a cow, right? So as a bull, and then the
Yes.
four principles are the four legs of the bull, and then each one of them is lost. So yes, you're right. So at that time, because the principles, the dharmic principles, were upheld to a very good extent, even if people lived for a longer period of time, the karmic bondage was not like we have in the Kali Yuga. Is that what you were asking, Prabhu?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not, it's different. It was different. Yeah, because um, for example, in Satyuga, after Satyuga, um, austerity was lost. Yeah? So um, and in Satyuga, the principal way we connect to Krishna was through dhyato. Dhyato means meditation. But then you need austerity to meditate. So those people now, they had fallen from one of the principles of religion was reduced to a significant extent, and so no more austerity was there, or austerity was significantly reduced, and that they could not meditate anymore. And so that was one of the defects that came into them, and that's how one of their life, the period became shorter, and eventually now we had shortened up to just like 100 or so years we live. So yeah, even though they used to live long, but their karmic bondage was not huge because they were following the principles appropriately.
Okay. Understand. Thank you.
As you remember also, right? You got a good point, Prabhu. When Kali in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it comes right when Parikshit Maharaj, he sees Kali, that Kali had entered the kingdom, and he was dressed like a king. So Parikshit Maharaj says, "You cannot enter my kingdom." But then the Kali said that, "But the whole world is your kingdom. Where should I go?" So then he gives him permission to live in four places. Um, what was that? Dyutam Panam Striyasuna. Dyutam is gambling, Panam is drinking, Striya is prostitution, what it represents, Suna is animal slaughter. So Yatra Adharmas Chaturvidha. Those are the four adharmas where Kali could stay. So now in Kali Yuga, we have been so degraded now that it is the irreligious principles are so intertwined in the society that we are starting to consider it as a symbol of respect. Something, what kind of alcohol do you drink? Oh, my whiskey is 100 years old, and that kind of nonsense. And which casino do you go to gamble, and how many millions of dollars you can, all that nonsense, right? Oh, which meat do you eat? Oh, I eat venison deer meat, and uh, deer meat is so this is the way we make deer meat. All that nonsense, right? So the principles have become so bad now that now Krishna has been very merciful that you will accumulate all the karmas within a short span of 100 years itself. You don't need to live for 1,000 years. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else on anyone's mind? No? Okay. Can move forward. Let's see Prabhupada's purport. So Prabhupada's purport in the first section itself, what Prabhupada talks about is, where's that? This first paragraph, he's talking about karma bandhana. Prabhupada translated, bound by one's own work. Karma bandhana is a very important phrase Prabhupada is using here. So as the word, so the word karma is very interesting. So the word karma can be so the word karma can have multiple meanings. I just wanted to highlight that. So sometimes if you see, right, the word karma is, they say, so when we say that I'm suffering because of my karma. So that means that I'm talking about the reaction, right? So there the word karma is referring to the reaction, right? And then karma can also be refer to my action also. Or these are my karma. And then in this verse, the word karma is being used as karmani, is as good karma. So the word karma can be understood many different ways. So we have to be cautious how the word karma is being used. Just 1 minute. Yes, how this karma is being used. And Prabhupada is saying that bound to karma, the living being is eternal by nature, but due to his bondage in the material existence, he has to change one body to another. Right? So we are eternal. Right? Mamai Vamsho, Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta, Sanatana. The word Sanatana means eternal. We as living entities are eternal. However, by being attached to karma, being karma bandhana, it causes death to us. Right? So let's talk a bit about this. As I mentioned earlier, the soul illuminates this whole body. We read this in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Yatha prakashyati eka krishnam lokam imam ravi. That how one sun illuminates the whole universe. Kshetram kshetri tatha krishnam prakashyati bharata. That the body is illuminated by the soul. Right, so that was the so similarly, so soul is eternal, right? And body is temporary. Soul doesn't die, and body is material. It doesn't experience death. So then, who is experiencing death? If the soul never dies, it's eternal. The body is already dead, it's matter. So, who is it the one who's suffering? Anybody has any thoughts on it? So let me rephrase my question. Body cannot die; it's already dead, right? It has no emotions. Me as a soul, Krishna has told us, Mama Ivansa Jeev Loke Jeev Bhuta Sanatana. I'm eternal. I never die. Right? Nothing cuts me, soul cannot die. But then still, we see there is suffering in my life. Right? So who is suffering then? So any thoughts on
Mind,
this?
Prabhuji? Is it mind that is creating this suffering and death, all those things?
Again, is this a question or an answer? Tell me, is it a question or an answer? Are you asking me or you're telling me?
I'm not sure, Prabhuji. That's why I'm
Okay.
asking.
Well, mind is also one of the material things, right? Krishna says this in the 7th chapter, 4th verse. Right? What was that? The 8 principles he says, right? That it's all what is it? Air, water, bhumi, rapo, nalo, vayu, kham, mano, buddhi, revacha, ahankariti ante, bhin prakarashtada. So bhumi, apo, nalo, vayu, kham, mano, buddhi, ahankar. So mind, intelligence, ego. They all are material. So they are like our body, material. It's material. Mind is not. So it also is dead. Any other thoughts, anybody? So so the problem comes from attachment. That's the problem. The soul doesn't die, but it experiences death due to attachment to the body. That is the problem. Right? Body that or soul that identifies with the body and mistakes that the events that are happening to this body is the one that's suffering. So suffering is because of misidentification. By itself, in its true nature of Satchidanand, the soul never suffers. And the body cannot suffer, it's dead matter. So to the extent we desire to enjoy material things, to that extent we are attached. Right? Just imagine you all must have seen the movie where the hero dies and you become sad. You become sad. I still remember I was very young and I saw the movie Sholay, and it really hurt me that Amitabh Bachchan died in that movie. I was sad because I was identifying with that character in the movie. So in that scenario, like me watching a movie on the screen, and the hero dying, I was the soul and the character on the screen was my body. But just because I was attached to that, I felt that pain. So that's the source of misery, attachment, misidentification. To the extent we identify with the body, to that same extent the suffering increases, and the ultimate suffering is death. So we all being immortal souls, we are suffering the pain of mortality because of the desire for enjoying matter. So desire for enjoying matter is the cause of karma bandhana, karma and karma bandhana. So it sounds easy. I'm not saying it's very easy, but we can start with baby steps, some very simple things. Being conscious, setting a proper schedule for ourselves so that mind doesn't fool us, setting our all our ducks in line so that we know, okay, this is what I have to do today. After this, I'll think of what else to do. So yeah, so we can make some very conscious changes in our life so that this constant concept of enjoying reduces significantly as we grow in bhakti. And that's what Prabhupada is bringing it out in this purport. That he's saying that living beings are turned by nature, but due to his bondage, he has to change his body from one to another. And he's saying that if he does not act according to the prescribed duties of his particular life, he transgresses the law of nature, making himself bound more and more in the cycle of birth and death. And what does it mean, more and more in the cycle of birth and death? Like it means going deeper and deeper in the animal kingdom. Yes. Yeah. Okay. And then the next next paragraph, Prabhupada talks about a concept of karma, akarma, and vikarma. He brings out that concept here. So, where is that? So he says human life offers liberation through akarma. Right? That's the concept of the second one. That if we live our life according to akarma, then it's that's the right way of living. That's what I mean. Right. So so as I said, so let's look at these three words. So we talked about karma. I mentioned to you karma. So in a more stricter scriptural sense, actions done in accordance with our prescribed duties, as mentioned in the revealed scriptures, that's karma. It's even bringing to me reaction, but that's the good karma. Okay. Then there is vikarma. So we have read this in the where did we read it? In the 4th chapter, right? Karmana opihi bodhavyam, bodhavyam hi vikarmana, akarmana cha bodhavyam, gahano karmano gati. Where Krishna is saying that the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. These three words have been talked about in that. If you're interested, fourth chapter. It's in 4th chapter, somewhere in the middle of the chapter. I don't remember the number. But yeah, so vikarma is viruddha rupena karma. So action which is done contrary to the scriptures by misuse of one's free will. Yeah? And Kali Yuga is full of vikarma, as we were just talking. Then the 4 main vikarmic activities: intoxication, meat eating, gambling, in illicit relationships. These 4 main religious activities, they lead to severe karmic reactions. And so, yeah. And then different from karma and vikarma is akarma. Akarma doesn't mean inactivity. That's something you all should understand. Akarma means activity that brings no reaction. Activity that frees one from the cycle of birth and death. That's akarma. We have talked about that example. If a soldier is killing on the battlefront, he can kill millions, but he will never be punished. On the contrary, he will be given a Purple Heart or Peace Chakra, as they give in India. He'll be given that. But the moment he comes home and he kills his neighbor, he will be hanged. Because what he was doing on the battlefront was akarma, ordered by a higher authority. Similarly, akarma for us is what Krishna is ordering us to do. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Become my devotee. That's what Krishna wants. But that might be a far-fetched goal. But in the meantime, at least we can start with doing the right karma. Even if we cannot come to a karma right away, we can start doing the right karma. Okay? Live a life which is more conducive for our spiritual growth. Something we can do that. It's not like we can become pure devotees in day one, but for sure we can start living our lives in a way that aligns us towards moving on that path. So, and then Prabhupada points out in, I think the next, is it next? Oh, here, yes. Prabhupada says, factually, no one has to do anything more than to render devotional service to the Lord. In the lower stage of life, however, one cannot at once adopt the activities of devotional service, nor can one completely stop reactionary work. So, what Prabhupada is saying, when we begin our bhakti, it's not like we will give up everything in day one. It will be a cycle. So initially we start doing good karma, good activities. And then eventually we'll come to a point of akarma where whatever we do, because we are fully aligned with Krishna and his goal, his mission, then we will have no karma. It will be nullified. Like Prabhupada, when Prabhupada, whenever Prabhupada's disciples would glorify him, that Prabhupada, oh, you've done so much, you are so merciful, or he would immediately say, no, it's my Guru Maharaj whose mercy is this all. He wouldn't even let the glorification sit on him. The moment it would come, he would redirect it to his Guru. And with that attitude, it becomes akarma. He was not accepting anything for himself. Everything was for Krishna's service. So even a sentence of glorification was not accepted. He would say, no, it goes all to my Guru. So that's the position of being akarma. That's a pure devotee, what we are talking about, like Prabhupada. For us, we're not pure devotees. No, at least I'm not a pure devotee. So I have to continue engaging with this material world, but in a way, I'm not smeared by it. Lipyate. We talked about that part. But I'm not smeared by that. And then it becomes something like worth living. Sometimes it's a okay. Let's go back to the purport. There's a thing that Prabhupada highlights. I really liked in the purport. Let me see, where was it? It talks of here, it's in the same paragraph. An ordinary man wants to work for his own sense enjoyment, and when the principle of sense enjoyment is extended from an individual to include the collective society, nation, or humanity in general, it assumes various attractive names such as altruism, socialism, communism, nationalism, humanitarianism, etc. These isms are certainly very attractive forms of karma bandhana, the bondage of one's own work, but the Vedic instruction of Sri Isopanishad is as follows. If you actually live for any of the above isms, make them God-centered. So this is a very practical way of aligning whatever inclinations you have in this world, we can make it God-centered. So now let's look at this, understand how this is done. When Prabhupada came to US, there was a lot of hype about man going on the moon. And many of his disciples were very proud. I'm an American. My country put a man on the moon. Prabhupada knew what to do at this point. Prabhupada says, spiritualize all these isms. That's what he's saying here. Right? When Prabhupada's disciples used to go to India, he would say to them, you are Americans, do something big like you do in America. Do something great here also in India. But when he was in US, he would tell them to come out of that nationalism. Right? Like man going on the moon, right? As I was just talking about. Prabhupada, many times Prabhupada said man didn't go on moon. But then sometimes when Prabhupada said, okay, even if he went on the moon, what's great about it? So, but then what Prabhupada was actually trying to do was, his point was, don't get excited about it. In material existence, if we get too much attached in these isms, the condition, the soul is pulled away. It drags the consciousness of the soul through these different things, like this nationalism, right? So an Acharya has to do whatever it takes to bring back conditioned soul's mind back to Krishna, right? So there was a craze for moon race, right? So when Prabhupada said that, oh, man has not reached the moon, or even if he has, what Prabhupada was trying to inculcate the habit that don't get excited about it. Right? So Prabhupada had to find a way so that people don't get distracted by it. Yena kena prakarena mana Krishna nivekshaya. So that isms that Prabhupada, that disciples were living in, he had to pull them out of it. And for that, he had to do something, say something or do something. So that's one of the way to understand the Prabhupada's purpose and reasoning around that moon landing thing. Then even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna does the same thing. So in verses, second chapter, 13th and 14th, he's telling Arjun that you're not a body, right? In 14th, he's saying, Matra sparshas konteya, sitoshta dukkha, agama payananitis, tam stitikshava bharata. So if you understand, right? So he's calling him Konteya, he's calling him Bharata, which is his bodily platform, Arjun's bodily platform, right? Konteya means he's son of Kunti. Bharata means he's a descendant of King Bharata. But at the same time, he's telling him that you're not this body. So Krishna is also using bodily designations. So what is being done here is, even if we have some kind of ism, altruism, nationalism, communism, whatever ism it may be, we have to make it God-centered. Right? So what Krishna was doing by calling Arjun Konteya and Bharata was that you are coming from such a strong lineage, so take up this message. So he was motivating him using his ism, that bodily designation he had. Just like Prabhupada was using the bodily designation of his American disciples. When they came to India, he said, oh, you are Americans, you do such great things in your country, do something big here. So again, he was using their bodily designation for Krishna's service. That's what it means to take your isms and you spiritualize. We can't wish away this body. I've been born with this body, I have to live with this. Right? But we should not massage our ego, and we should not try to minimize it. We should just bring it to spirituality somehow. That's the right way to do it. I'll give you another example. Massage means somebody can say, oh, I'm India. I'm an Indian. India is such a big, great country. We have such a rich cultural heritage, and so and so forth. You can be, that's massaging your ego, your ism. You're massaging your ism. And when I say curbing your ego means, don't try to minimize it or nullify it. Means that, oh, I'm an Indian, but there is so much mismanagement in India. Oh, India is such a dirty country. I'm trying to kill my ego, or that is. So use that pride or use that ego for your spiritual upliftment. We don't have to be dismissive. We just have to spiritualize them. And that's why Prabhupada is highlighting here the concept that when we have such isms, I cannot expect somebody to go right from the ism to pure devotion. That is why spirituality is a multi-level process. Right? We have talked about in the past, right? That the Vedic scriptures give us multi-level spirituality. If somebody cannot practice bhakti, Krishna has talked about dhyan, karma, so on, so forth. Right? If you cannot worship Krishna, there is other concept, demigods, impersonal, so on and so forth. Right? So the Vedic culture offers us flexibility. That's what's reflected in Bhagavad Gita and in these scriptures also. Right? It's a part of a progression. Right? Who can't realize this progression immediately, they see it as a contradiction. There's no contradiction in our Shastras. Right? Everything is happening progressively. So Bhagavad Gita and our scriptures can be seen at two levels. Let's talk about Bhagavad. If somebody wants the conclusion, what's the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita? Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sharanam. But if somebody wants to practice something else, then some people can take different sections of Bhagavad Gita. Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who was one of the freedom fighters, he wrote a version of Bhagavad Gita. He highlighted the karma concept. And his goal was to incite people to fight against the Britishers. Mahatma Gandhi picked up non-violence somewhere or the other. I'm not sure where he picked it up from, but he supposedly said that his philosophy was based on Bhagavad Gita, but Bhagavad Gita is being spoken in the middle of a battlefield. It's not about non-violence, but he also interpreted it. So different people interpret Bhagavad Gita in different ways. Right? They pick up different sections. So depending on wherever anybody is, they can get something out from the scriptures. As long as they have the intention to progress, they will progress. Okay. Let's see what else is there in the purport. And I think God-centered activities are evaluated in the Bhagavad Gita as being so rich that even a little bit of them can save one from the greatest danger. So this here Prabhupada is talking about the verse, second chapter, verse number 40. Nehabi karma naswasti prattavayona vidyate swalpamapis dharmasya prayate mahato bhayat. So Prabhupada is connecting Bhagavad Gita a lot here. That even a little bit of spirituality can protect you from the greatest danger. What is the greatest danger? I am a human being. Who knows? I can become a dog in the next life. That's the greatest danger. I could become a tree, animal. Who wants? The Prabhupada is saying the greatest danger of life is to glide down again into the evolutionary cycle. Even a humble life with God-centered activities is more valuable than the colossal hoax of so-called altruism or socialism without any relation to God. If there is no God in the picture, it's just a colossal hoax. I really like this phrase, the colossal hoax of so-called altruism or socialism. Right? So what Prabhupada is telling us in the last part of the purport, when all these activities are executed in the spirit of Sri Isopanishad, every one of them becomes a form of karma yoga, as it is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita. And that guarantees the executor again against the danger of evolutionary past process of birth and death. Yes. Okay, that was there. So the important part is that this full book is revolving around the Ishavasya principle. So Ishavasya principle is that everything belongs to Krishna. And how can I use it for Krishna's service? And then I become perfect. And then I can live forever. Jivova Marova. I can either live or die. Doesn't matter. My life is set. Doesn't matter. Okay. So this was the Ishavasya principle. Sorry, not Ishavasya principle. Verse 2. Before we're being told we can live for hundreds of years if we follow this principle. Okay. Any comments, questions, thoughts? We'll wrap up at this verse. We'll start the next verse next week.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, there were two things that you said that attachment brings, and I think I'm trying to remember what the two things were, but I think suffering and something else. If you can repeat it again, Prabhu.
Suffering, sorry, two things. Can you please repeat your question, please? Sorry.
Probably there were two things that you mentioned that attachment causes. I think suffering was one of them, and the other
Oh,
thing
okay.
was trying to
Yeah, suffering and enjoyment, right?
and enjoyment. Okay, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so they both have the. So it's we all go through this. Prabhupada said this is bhoga tyaga. So sometimes I want to enjoy, but sometimes I get frustrated of that enjoyment. I want to renounce. So it's happiness and sorrow. They keep going all the time. They're two sides of the same coin. So yes, that's what I was referring to, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
What I meant by that was, good you brought it up, Prabhu, was that even if if it brings pleasure, it's still binding, right? It's still a karma. It's even though it's bringing me something good, but still karma. We all have to go from karma to akarma. So the best thing is, okay, instead of doing those, like the vikarmic activities, the wrong activities, I at least do something that's good. But then the goal is to give up everything, good or bad. That's the level of akarma, and that only comes when I do it for Krishna. So the state of karmic state could be that, okay, yes, I might be enjoying someday, might be suffering someday, but still they both are binding. Okay, anything else?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I have a question.
Yes.
I mean, in this verse towards the end, it is said that if you perform your duty in Ishavasya principle and with the sense of akarma, then the human form is guaranteed in the next life. But if the same duty is performed in a karma spirit, at the same time, the karmas are devoteal to Krishna. So what will be the position? Still the birth happens, or that birth death thing is discontinued?
If we offer to Krishna, your question is if we are offering everything to Krishna, then is the birth and death coming? Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Yeah, you are performing your duty in the way of a karma way. So that doesn't carry any bondage, right?
Mhm.
But then it still says that towards the end that the birth again is the person gets the birth again, so that he can finish his rest of the thing, you know. But if the person is devoting it to Krishna, all his actions, so will still that be he will have to take birth again, or it is just that his birth will be discontinued?
Well, that depends to what extent that person has completed it, right? That if we have completed our journey, let's say we have become to a level of pure devotee, Uttam Adhikari, then we will not get this body, right? The reason we are in this body is because I have my karmic baggage, good or bad, irrespective of that, there is something I'm carrying. That is why I have to come into this body and use those karma, either pay for them or enjoy them. And when we start doing bhakti, slowly moving from this concept of doing good sometime, doing bad sometime, I'm slowly inching towards a point where whatever activity I'm doing it for Krishna. And because I'm doing it for Krishna, now no karma is coming to me. No good, no bad. So I'm reducing my karmic load. And when that karmic load becomes zero, I'm ready to go back home, back to God.
Okay, so still you are obliged to complete your baggage before you get to the point to not get this birth and death cycle again. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. But then don't think that you are alone in this. When we start practicing devotional service, then Krishna takes care of it. Especially when we take initiation, then the Guru takes away all our karma. So the Guru has been authorized by Krishna himself, because our Guru is a a pure devotee of, and he's coming in that lineage, the guru can take away all your karma. When we get initiated, our karmas are nullified. That's the
Okay.
beauty. That's why we should get initiated as soon as we can. When we have a chance, get it going. Because sometimes some people think, oh no, I'll wait for the perfect guru. I'm waiting for him or her, and oh, my guru, my heart is not telling me who my guru is. No, all that is, you should be very conscious and practical and see and get this process keep going on. If you don't, you can spend life after life, decades, and when you turn 70, you'll realize, oh my God, I wasted my life. But yes, so a guru can do that. The guru can nullify our karma when we officially make a relationship with our guru and we commit to our guru that, my dear spiritual master, I take this vow, I will follow what you're telling me to do. And because I'm following your order, and because your order is exactly what Krishna wants us to do, all my karmas will be nullified.
Oh, this sounds very great, Prabhu. Then another question emerges now. Sorry.
Yes.
That when a person who has got initiated, the first initiation, I mean, and then that person is doing everything fine according to the guidelines of the Guru, Shastra, and sadhus, and then suddenly he dies and doesn't get a second initiation. So still that person is eligible for the spiritual world, or is that person has to still take birth again and then aspire for the second initiation and then finally get the...
See, Mati, it's not a concept of initiation. It's a concept of commitment. If you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there was no official way of initiation. It was not like Mahaprabhu would sit down and do a fire sacrifice, chant mantras. Rupa Goswami came to him, asked him, who am I? He was fully surrendered. So now today the Goswamis are the official disciples of Mahaprabhu, propagating his message and movement. So it's not a concept of first initiation, second initiation. Some things have to be put in a picture. Prabhupada put these as initiations, first, second, because he came to a country that was extremely materialist. He had to give them a very clear picture of what the process means. But in general, it's not dependent on first or second. It depends on what your intentions are, what your commitment towards the Guru is. You might not be even initiated, but if you have given your heart to your Guru, you are ready for going back home.
Oh, wow. That's so wonderful to know, bro.
Yes. It's not about first or second initiation, Mati. Don't think about that.
That's great to know, because I was confused with those three things. Actually, now you clarified it very nicely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's about your commitment. So, for example, none of us has seen Prabhupada, but we all are committed to Prabhupada. That Prabhupada, I want to spread your movement, and I will do whatever I have to. Obviously, my Guru is here because he's telling me what your mood was, so I listen to him, and through him I get to know your mood. But we have never seen Prabhupada. But then our commitment is more than enough. That who knows? You might be lucky that Prabhupada might come to take you. He might come and talk to you when you're leaving the body. Who knows? I'm just giving some thoughts here, but so the relationship is coming from the basis of commitment.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the bigger principle.
Yeah, that's so wonderful to know, actually. And this really opens up so much for me, particularly, because I always was confused that if you don't get this, you don't get this. If you don't have this, you don't have this.
It's not that way, Mati. I'll tell you something. Whenever, like I distribute books. We have our marathons every year. We have a Bhagavata marathon going on. We'll have Bhagavad Gita. Whenever we set a goal for this, okay, this year, this is our goal. Prabhupada tells us that the moment in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is actually a verse where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that Mahaprabhu is the biggest venture capitalist. The moment I say, that Mahaprabhu, I want to serve you, and I'm setting this big goal, I'm not sure how it's going to happen. But I'm just setting it because I have faith on you. So that very same moment, Mahaprabhu cuts a check for me. Because it's a relationship of commitment and love. And me being dependent on Mahaprabhu for his mercy. It's not like I can do, hundreds of sets of Bhagavatam or thousands of Bhagavatam. No, I'm not capable of that. But the moment I try and I commit that, Mahaprabhu, because you said that, I want to follow your principles, I want to follow the principles of your pure devotee, Prabhupada. That commitment infuses energy in it, and that mercy starts flowing. It opens up the channels. So similarly, when we become committed towards this movement, towards this process, the channels open up. It's not that, oh, I haven't sat down in front of the fire and got a fire sacrifice done, and I wasn't officially, brought into my second initiation is missing, something of that sort. Obviously, they have their benefits, but your progress is not dependent on that. That's what I just want to highlight.
That's really wonderful to know, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Right. Yeah, but we have to understand that mercy is coming through a guru. So as soon as we have an opportunity, we should connect to the movement, because it's like plugging in a socket. I know there is a powerhouse somewhere, but the representative of the powerhouse is in my house. The moment I see it, I plug it, and my laptop is working fine. Otherwise, the battery will die away. Similarly, in our bhakti, if we don't connect to the whole process as soon as we can, sooner or later the bhakti will die away. So it's always very, very important that we connect to the lineage, to the disciplic succession as soon as we can, so that our progress continues.
Yes, very nice, Prabhu. I mean, your words really helped me out to open so many knots within my heart and mind. So thank you so much for explaining it so well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, any last minutes? No? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. I will see you all next week. Please read the purport. Thank you. Hare Krishna.